Hi, this is Brother Darrell Barnes, your recovery Bible study guy, and the verses that we will be looking at are from the New Living Translation, so make sure you look at the description under the video for the page numbers that match. Also, comment on YouTube. That makes this whole process much more interesting. We're going to bust out a few verses from John 20, beginning in verse 19. That Sunday evening, the disciples were meeting behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. Suddenly, Jesus was standing there among them. "Peace be with you," he said. 8 days later, the disciples were together again, and this time Thomas was with them. This is significant because Thomas had already said, "I'm not going to believe this until I see it." So here is the opportunity. The doors were locked, but suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them. "Peace be with you," he said. Between verses 26 and 28, Jesus allowed Thomas to touch his wounds. Thomas exclaimed, "My Lord and my God." Beautiful. Before we continue on with this passage, let's take a look at the interesting picture. This is my dad when he was probably about 10 years old. His grandmother, Rosa Ann, and his brother, Larry. This picture was probably taken in Oklahoma in the late 40s, early 50s, I'm guessing. Probably the 40s. My dad always thought that this passage was interesting because Jesus was able to move through fixed objects and appear as he did. Very interesting. Let's reflect just for a few minutes on these verses before we continue on. One of the things that I love about this is how that Jesus, even though he appeared out of nowhere and may have startled his disciples, he immediately comforted them. He immediately comforted them. "Peace be with you. Peace be with you," both times. I just love that because sometimes when we are in the middle of our difficulty, in that still, quiet voice, Jesus comforts us. I just think that is just gorgeous and that is so beautiful. It's also significant that God, in the form of Jesus, passed through closed doors. He allowed Thomas to touch his side. He didn't really spare much to prove who he was. And I think to myself, what's it going to take for me to actually to live like I believe this, that he is my God? When I worry about things that are beyond my control, I'm really not giving it to him. I'm really not letting go and letting God. Thomas was one of these people. He was just like me. He had a difficult time letting go and letting God. Let's continue on for just a minute. Revelation 3, verse 20. "Look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and we will share a meal together as friends." What a beautiful passage. Jesus was talking to the Laodiceans because they had been lukewarm. And he said, "I'm going to spew you out of my mouth because you are neither hot nor cold." Once again, living in disbelief. Living in disbelief. Thomas, the Laodiceans, me. Let us not believe but deny the power. There is power in Jesus Christ. There's power in his redemption. There's power in his comfort. Before I close, I'd like to look at one more passage. Verse 29. "Blessed are those who believe without seeing me." In verse 29 of John chapter 20, Jesus had spoken to Thomas and he said, in effect, I'm proud of you for believing after you have touched me, after you have seen me. But blessed are those who believe without seeing me. So, in addition to the blessing that you will get from reading Revelation, there is also a beautiful blessing for you, the one who believes in Jesus Christ without actually seeing him in bodily form. God bless you, brothers and sisters. Grace and peace.